All 15 girls were swarming with different emotions: shock, awe, amazement, and terror, as Arterius's scarlet-red wings flapped either side of them. The saddles they sat on were a lot more comfortable than expected, but the soft cushion didn't change the fact they were all effectively under duress riding a dragon. Arterius casually whistles to himself, in a way that a dragon could anyway, as he flew back towards his home. The air around them was strangely calm as Arterius approached his landing zone. A heavy concrete platform with a large H marked in the middle in white paint. Caliban was waiting for them. He wore the same uniform the girls first found him in, his scarlet-red cloak and gear, this time wearing a mask and carrying a strange golden gilded war blade. The girls dismounted gingerly, half curious, half scared, and attempted to use the dragon as a shield against Caliban. "She wants to meet you," Caliban said, his voice distorted and artificial. Who?" one of the girls hiding behind Arterius's leg asked. "Stop asking questions. Come, now," Caliban commanded. "That means you too, Art." Caliban directed everyone to the large warehouse. The very big building he warned the girls against going in earlier. All of the newcomers, as well as Arterius, followed him closely, with the girls using the dragon as a shield. Caliban seemed stressed, angered, his tone a lot more hostile than everyone remembered. He stood in front of the massive doors to the building and raised his blade. A loud screech erupted and the doors opened, massive gears grinding against their mechanisms as the multi-ton steel doors slowly ground open. The noise was enough to alert the entire dragon population to the event. Once the doors were opened, only enough to allow Arterius to enter, Caliban commanded them to enter. They all hesitated, but not willing to agitate him, they all did as ordered. Caliban entered, closing the door behind them. The room was dark, the only lights being strange, glowing blue orbs that illuminated the ground towards a corner of the structure's interior. The group approached, and a series of bright lights suddenly turned on, exposing a large orb-like machine mounted into the wall. The lights dimmed as a strange mechanical grinding noise was heard. The orb's shell split open and revealed a woman. The group stood shocked at the sight. It was a woman, a human female, wearing some kind of skin-tight suit that had dozens of thick and thin cables inserted into her skin, every cable somehow leading into the shell itself, blue, purple, red, black, cables jutting out of her spine and her arms. She seemed to float peacefully in some kind of fluid or liquid substance, her hair flowing freely behind her. Caliban moved up to the pod, pressing buttons on a control panel next to the orb. "Wake up, Lorelai. The visitors you asked for arrived," Caliban said. The woman's eyes opened and looked at the group in front of her. She looked at each girl, then the dragon, and carefully inspected everyone before finally smiling at them. She spoke, her voice coming through some kind of speaker system, but clear, perfect, melodic, and sweet. "Well, howdy. So these are the magic people I done heard so much about?" Caliban sighed with a smile. "Please excuse her. She's from Texas," Caliban said with a mocking chuckle. "Oh, come on. When are you not going to pull that card?" she said with a grin. "When it stops being true." Cal replied with a side glance. The two shared a laugh together and carried on. "Introductions. This is Lorelai, my wife," Caliban said. "Oh," everyone said, suddenly understanding the relationship from their behavior. "So, that's a dragon, huh?" Lorelai asked, using a mechanical arm nearby to gesture towards Arterius. "Yep, they're real here. The red ones seem to be okay. The gray ones and blue ones are very bitey, clawy, and burny," Caliban remarked, probably recalling previous experience. "He's a handsome one, ain't he?" Lorelai said, using one of the mechanical arms to reach up and scratch the underside of Arterius's chin. "Yep, he isn't the biggest one that's around. He's sort of like a teenager in dragon terms. But anyway, satisfied?" Caliban asked, gesturing to the group. "Oh, definitely. I'm going to need time to think, but this is pretty cool," Lorelai replied, giving the crowd a playful wink. "Okay then, you go back to sleep now," Caliban said and typed on the keypad. Lorelai frowned but curled into a fetal position, then the pod closed. Before anyone could say anything, Caliban raised his hand in protest, then gestured for everyone to walk out the room. The massive doors reopened, then everyone was shepherded out into the open air. The entire dragon clan was now surrounding the building. Every dragon, from younglings to elders, was perched on every available spot they could find, including a few younglings that were bending a redwood tree over from their weight in order to catch a glimpse of what was going on. Caliban took a deep breath and let the doors close behind everyone. He used his wearable button panel on his left arm, and some beeping noises came from it. A rumble from the ground was heard, and a few dragons scattered as some structure appeared out of the ground. Some kind of large square building, 2 stories high with stairs leading up. Caliban inspected the structure and returned to the group. "Okay, guest house is built. Please give us time to pretty it up. It's basic, but this will do for now. Come on in," Cal said, gesturing for the ladies to follow him inside. "Basic," he said. The girls all gasped at the luxury they suddenly found themselves in. Caliban pointed everything out as he gave them a tour. The bedrooms had large 2-person beds covered in soft, luxurious cotton bedding and fine linens, with full dressers full of clothes, vanities with grooming tools and jewelry, all of which were of such incredible quality most girls wouldn't see these in their lifetimes, even if they married into nobility. Caliban showed them the bathroom, which they were amazed at, a built-in kitchen which even the most prized of chefs would be jealous of. A dining room with space for 20 people, a living room all surrounding a large polished marble fire pit, and some kind of small library full of books. "Well, here's your place. Pick a room. You'll be here a few days, then we'll send you home. Help yourself to any clothes you like. The jewelry is just fake costume stuff, but it's nice to look at anyway. If ever you're hungry, help yourself to the pantry. Got some decent stuff there," Cal said as he put his axe staff aside and sat quietly by the fire pit. He leaned in, twisted a dial of some kind, and suddenly there was a roaring, warm fire. These simple peasant girls from a close-knit community in the ass end of nowhere had no idea what to say or do, so all of them slowly just funneled in and sat by the fire. By the time the last girl sat down, Caliban had taken his helmet off and was calm by the fire, gently poking at it with a stick. "So, what exactly is going on?" Genasi asked. "Want the full story, huh? Guess it's okay to tell you now. Lorelai and I were married decades ago, but life decided we weren't struggling enough. One incurable, debilitating disease later, we lost our unborn son, and she lost the use of her limbs and nearly her life. We decided to make it easier on us financially. We mutually decided to join the Crybray-Tech mechanoid program, hence the orb thing she's in," Cal said with a sorrowful sigh. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," Marie replied. "Short story, that sphere thing is her heart, lungs, and only link to the outside world. It keeps her alive and makes sure she doesn't feel any pain. The machinery she's attached to connects her directly to all the machinery here. In short, she is the equivalent of a sort of machine spirit. See that camera lens there?" Caliban said, gesturing to an odd glass dome thing nearby. "That's her. She can see and hear everything. She is the factory," Cal remarked with a strangely proud smile. The girls all shivered with a bit of sadness and fear as they considered what Caliban just said. They sat in silence for a few minutes as they contemplated what was really going on. "Now get this. Apparently life decided I wasn't suffering enough. So just after Lorelai started her training, guess whose brother gets involved with the mob?" Caliban said, gesturing to himself, "and is found dead in a ditch with hundreds of thousands of credits worth of gambling debts. Mine, my dumbass brother, poor bastard. So, with family debt I can't get rid of, my wife slated for service in the fleets, I had no choice but to try to make a new living. I got drafted before I could even try, though, and I was sent to start training as a service engineer in the Space Corps. The Army would cover my debts and maybe go after the guys hunting me. That's how this happened," Cal said. To all the girls' shock and horror, Caliban procured a pistol from his belt, aimed it at his temple, and fired. The impact caused his head to move, but he just ignored it. He closed his eyes as the bullet hit him, but opened them. He looked around, grunted as he twisted his jaw, as if he'd tasted something awful. Then spat out a bullet into his hand, showing the thing covered in blood, then tossed it into the fire pit. He simply carried on casually, as if nothing had ever happened, and resumed poking the fire with a stick. "Resurgence program. I had the genes for it, so when I got drafted up to service, I got put in a special forces unit, for soldiers that can't die. I get an arm blown off, it grows back. My torso gets torn open, it grows back. I get hit with artillery, I just get reassembled and recloned. I have no idea what I even am anymore. I feel nothing, he said, chucking the stick into the fire. Then what you are saying is, your wife knows not how to live. And you have not idea to die? Marie said, her voice trembling. Yep. Then, suddenly we find ourselves here. Our entire facility, factory, her life support, all of it here, just poof. One moment I'm arguing with a revenue agent, the next moment I'm here still on my property but making a huge pot of bear gator meat gumbo for a bunch of frigging dragons. Still have no idea why, but that gray dragon dude had it coming when I blew his torso open, Caliban said with a chuckle. Speaking of bear gumbo, Cal said and stood up. He moved to a nearby white box in the kitchen and procured 12 small bowls of an odd-looking but deliciously smelling stew. Must be a bit peckish after all this insanity. Help thyself. Well, that explains why when we met you, you were so, what's the word? An asshole? Yeah, Cal replied as he handed Amari her stew bowl. Stress does that to a guy. Sick wife, millions in debt, military service with a freak show platoon and all the shit that comes with that, he said and patted Amari on her head. He sat back down and resumed poking the fire with a new stick. All the girls just sat there, sharing glances and looks among each other. Genasi finally broke the awkward silence. So, why are we here? Lorelai's idea. She's no dummy and has known stuff like this happens all the time. She's already trying to figure things out. Simple answer is there's something big on the horizon. She's going to keep you here and probably teach you how to use the primary product we manufacture here, Cal replied with a strangely smug grin. What do you make here? Marie asked. Tanks, war machines, heavy industrial equipment, digging machines, drills, cranes, anything with heavy machinery or tracks, but specifically tanks, Cal said, pointing to a picture hanging on a wall. The picture was of one of Caliban's machines, but the wheels were strange. It was a heavy steel beast of metal, with wheels that looked like giant cogs, that forced some kind of long interlinking metal chain to move at its sides. Nobody could figure out what it was, but Genasi, Marie, Amari, and Serenia recognized the huge tube on the front as a gun, a bigger version of what Caliban used to kill the smog dragon. We used to make historically accurate versions of military hardware used in various world wars for collectors, museums, and other things, based on donated schematics and blueprints. Rich people would pay for toys, smart people paid us to make history come back to life. That particular one is a beast called the Porsche Tiger. We make them for fun, or testing nowadays, though. Making one that's dragon-sized would be stupid. But we can still make them people-sized. Or, if fate has anything to say, maybe they won't be war machines and we can just build them for tourists. Who knows? But in any case, considering what I've seen from this planet so far, you won't have anything to worry about, Cal said with a laugh. The girls all shared one more glance of concern with each other before finally deciding to taste the stew. Each girl, regardless of her proclivities and tastes, all went into a near-orgasmic feeding frenzy. The Croco Bear gumbo was nothing short of delicious. A selection of rich spices, all within a meat that had been carefully prepared, tenderized, marinated, prepared for hours in a slowly simmering sauce that was unimaginably creamy. Not too thick. Creamy, served hot, and with some strange new kind of grain called rice. Looks like they love your cooking, hun. Lorelai's voice spoke up from a speaker nearby. Cooking! A loud voice came from outside. I want my gumbo! Arterius yelled in despair as he realized what they were eating and attempted to shove his face in the doorway, tearing the door from its frame. Gimme gumbo! The whole building shook and shuddered as the dragon attempted to claw his way into the building to get a taste, his cries a mixture of desperation and sadness. Calm down, Art! Holy crap, your pot is still simmering. It'll be ready soon. This is a small batch I made for the guests. Don't worry, you guys will get your feast in due time, Caliban yelled, calming the dragon down. Gumbo! Arterius trailed off as he sadly walked away. Well, now we understand how you managed to make the dragons like you. One girl, the blue-skinned half-devil said as she let her bowl down on the table. What? Nah, they just like it. I'm keeping up good word with them because I can be very, very persuasive. You can lie, you can steal, you can feed an army. But nothing, I mean nothing, works better to convince another person than sound reason backed up by evidence and history. But anyway, you lot can rest for the night, wash up in the bath, etc. Tomorrow I'll have Art take you back home so you can tell your parents to stop panicking. And then you start cadet school, Caliban said, glaring at them with a strange smile. If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.